Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'd like to call our meeting to our public hearing on the budget to order. Before we get into the presentation, I would like to ask everyone to stand, and I would like Councilman Gettleman to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the first thing we'll do tonight is we do have a presentation. Normally we do it at the first council meeting in March, but last night we, due to some what was on the agenda last night, we thought it'd be a good idea to do the presentation before we open up the public hearing tonight. So at this point, I believe I'm going to turn it over to the town manager. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I think I will move to the podium, and then I'll give the presentation there. I will likely go through about 10 slides deep into the presentation in terms of expenses, and then I'll turn to superintendent for his part of the presentation, and then back to me for the remainder in terms of revenue upon debt service and so forth. So with that, I'll take my post up there and we'll get started. So I'll start with a repeat of the comment I made last night, which is these numbers are going to look familiar in terms of a sense of the impact as it did from last year. I think the increases were $20,000 or $30,000 apart. And last year was just over 6%, and this year we're at 5.82. But I'll jump into that. So it's going to look somewhat familiar. The state mandates, as we mentioned and talked about last night in detail, about the motor vehicle and the valuation changes. Roughly, the impact, as you'll see in a later slide, is about a little over $600,000. The veterans exemptions that we talked about, that Sarah Carey had walked us through last night, it has an impact as well. I do have that number. That was an open question from last night. That $4 million equates to a net impact revenue loss of $132,000. So there's some of the headwinds based on state mandates that we're facing. And in the grand list growth, item 2, we're at 0.39%. And that's significant, as you'll see later on in the slide deck when we get to I think it's slide 11 later on. You'll see that in the past or previous 2 years, that growth has been significantly higher. That has resulted in almost $1 million in revenue in the previous 2 years. So we'll get to that. That'll be later on, but not what we expected in terms of grand list growth. The hiring point number 3 was just something I wanted to add to try to put into perspective what we're facing with in the market. Running a quick report back from July 1st, just 8 months in, we've hired 15 new employees, 3 of which you've seen here before the council in terms of police officers, with another 12 in various departments throughout the town. And of course, you've heard, you know about some of the higher profile ones in terms of department heads, but the library director and assistant have both moved on, and so we're filling those positions. The planner is retiring and leaving next week, so we're in the process of bringing a new person on board and so forth and so on. But that's almost 2 a month in average. And so it's been a very, very busy year in terms of the employee retirements and or just leaving and working on retention and recruitment. And I will say that consistently throughout this process in the interviews, the 4-day work week has come up as a major attraction to Plainville. And what we're seeing is that these lateral transfers coming in are at or above what we're posting in terms of market salaries. So it's quite a challenge for us. But again, knock on wood, I think the Plainville reputation is very good, and combined with a 4-day work week, it's making the difference for us. So we'll continue to do the best we can on recruitment and retention. So proposed budget. 76,174,676 represents a 5.82% increase year over year of 4,187,848. As I said, that's really close to the same numbers you saw last year. Now into the more nitty-gritty in terms of the mill rate increase. Blended rate is going to be proposed at this point 1.73. And you look at the differences there in the 6-year average, minus 1.22 mils or minus 6.53%. Just like to give a historical average, if you will, or the last few years, just to put it into context of what kind of movement we've had with respect to the budgets and mill rates. And obviously, we continue to work with the state and this sort of moving target with motor vehicles. So it's a challenge as well. Now, Board of Ed breakdown is 2.5 million. For a 5.54% increase. The town government, 1.3 million or 6.07. Capital projects, $250,000, and debt service, an additional $100,000. That's how we get to the $4,187,848 and a 5.82. That's the breakdown. Here's a visual pie chart for you, sometimes helpful. And our average increases, as you see, in the last 12 years' expenditures. So the last 4 years have been incredibly difficult in meeting the challenges. And we've talked in the past about inflations and mandates all coming together in the perfect storm to continue to drive our expenditures up. So here's the inflation schedule. We've had that in the past as well. I'd like to want to be consistent and continue to run with that trend. The 6-year average, 3.58. That was as of February. Presentation here. Get my general government summary of expenditures. General government up 4.63. Public safety up 1.3%. Public works up 5.2%. Health and human services 2.4. Civic and cultural 3.9. Employee fringe benefits 6.65. And sundry 59.67. The transfers out. I did want to say just the insurance, and I'm repeating myself, and again, it's a highlight from last night as well, but looking at double-digit numbers in terms of health insurance cost for both the town and Board of Ed, going up 10 and 11% respectively. Major increases. So again, major drivers: personnel cost $530,000, police retirement $69,000, municipal flat, Health insurance is $187,000. Other contractual, $492,000. Gas, diesel, fuel, $33,000. Other insurances on the other side, not the health, but the other insurances we have, a decrease, which is good. It's always helpful. And other line items, 102. So on our side, major drivers equate to the 1.3 million that we have outlined. And I think that's where I'm going to pause in terms of our expenditures, and I will turn the mic and the pointer to our superintendent, Brian Reese. Well, I think because it's a clicker more than it is a pointer. Thank you. It's an all-in-one.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. My apologies for the back.
This is the best seat here.
Sorry. So thank you for the opportunity to present our budget tonight. We really appreciate all of the support we get. We're trying to do really good things, and all of your support is very much part of that. So I know many of you know this, but our budget process really starts when we finish the last year. September and October are about bringing our department heads together and kind of coming up with what are the needs, and what are the needs to make the work we're trying to do happen, because the budget is one of the biggest leverage points in our process. December becomes a month of number crunching, and then January is a number of long nights with the board going over every line item and asking many, many, many questions. And we try to answer them the best we can and support them to move forward. To segue from the town manager's report, the retention and recruitment is one of the buried things in our budget. There was a time you could come in at a lower percentage because you knew if you lost a teacher at the elementary school who was at the higher steps, you could bring somebody in at the lower steps, and you could pretty much guarantee every year that was something you could do. That time has passed. If you are in any field in our schools, you have the ability to move around the state if you choose to do so. That has never been the case in 26 years of education. We have never had that opportunity, and now pretty much any teacher has that opportunity. So it's a buried number. You can't kind of necessarily find it, but we are not able to do some of the magic we did once where we could bring kind of through attrition, find a fair amount of savings. So we're doing some really, really good stuff for the town, for our students. We see a lot of our students increasing their dual enrollment, which means they're taking college classes while they're in high school. So what does that do? It does two things for them. It allows them to start college with some credits. So maybe that means they save some money for their family. Maybe that means they have the opportunity to take other classes in college because they're there anyway. Or it prepares them to say, I can take a college class. I know what that's about. And there's nothing better than trying something out when you have a little more protection, like the high school setting. We also have our students increasing the amount of AP courses they take in percentages, increasing how many AP courses and tests they're taking. And if you can take an AP class, you can walk right into most universities, state universities anyway, and know that you're up for that kind of material. So that's a great offer we have, and the fact that our students continue to increase the number of students and the number of tests that are taken, both, and the scores are continue to rise, altogether is really good news for us. We're always engaging. Last night there was a conversation about do we have any relationships with Trump, and they've been very supportive of us. They actually have been in the schools. And we are very appreciative of them and many, many other organizations. The Dunkin' Donuts guy in town said, look, if you need anything catered, let me know because we will help you out with that. So it is a very supportive community, and we have some very nice relationships that make a big difference for Plainville. We use the remnants of the COVID funds and a reading grant to put a new K-3 instructional reading program in for next year. And that was purchased without affecting the town. But we're really excited that we believe that that is going to make a big difference for our younger grades in reading. We're implementing a K-12 instructional model, so teachers have common language that they can talk about as they study how to do more for our students and know more about what they're learning and how to teach them better. We're always increasing our supports for our students with special needs. We've created opportunities for our students to share when they're having difficulties by asking them questions, helping them through technology, and trying to meet their needs where they are and before they get worse. We are also jumping into the process of developing a state-of-the-art curriculum. During the pandemic and the years since, a lot of expectations around curriculum has changed, and we're really excited to move along those on that process. So part of what I wanted to do is kind of share with you kind of where to look at this budget in terms of the bigger picture. And I apologize because I can't actually read it all the way across the room, but that red line, oh, is this a pointer? Sweet. That red line, which is right there in the middle, that's Plainville. And if you look at the blue lines from left to right are the costs per student in our state. So you see ours is essentially in about the bottom 25% of districts. So when you're on the street and somebody says, well, aren't we more expensive than every other district? You can say, no, actually, about 75% are more, cost more per student than we do. Wrong button. So this is one of the things in the news. You'll see that there's a conversation out there about $40 million or $50 million for excess cost. So this graph shows you over the last 18 years what's happened with excess cost in terms of the percentage the state has been able to give us. While the costs of tuition have steadily risen at the 3 to 5% level over this time frame, instead of staying with that state reimbursement, the state has essentially kept their numbers the same. And the impact to that is that the amount we get back continues to decrease. And you can see that's a pretty strong trend line. And so as the state legislators what they're doing right now is they're trying to fix this. They're trying to bring it up so they're not watching this number go down. And I know that's been a conflict in the news, but it does affect us because whereas at one point we were in the 80% or 90%, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars, we are now, hovering in that 60s, in the 60s. So they're pretty confident they're going to be able to make some progress on it. However, just wanted you to know that does affect us. Everything's about how, the big picture. So take salaries out of our budget, and you look at this graph. And if you look at the top 4 colors, 5 colors actually, because there's a little blue on top, you see that all the way across over the last 5 years, the amounts almost don't change. Those are our supplies, those are our fees, those are our transportation, those are tuition, those are all those professional services, equipment. And so if you look at that and you look at probably that there's been a decent amount of inflation on those, you see a trend that essentially that green band and orange band and yellow band essentially stay the same. So they are not really moving. In fact, we trimmed about $200,000 out of supply requests this budget alone to try to meet, to keep that number the same. The blue below is benefits. That's health insurance and other insurances. And you can see how that has made a steady climb over the last 5 years. And it kind of puts it in context to what's happening with our budget. Our budget is higher than I would like to present. At the same time, that blue, which is our health insurance primarily, is what's driving the percentage over a percentage that I would like to see. So when we look at the budget in whole, you look at salaries are up about 5.29%. Benefits are up 7.18%. And professional services are up about 8%. Repairs, 3.8%. And tuition and transportation are up 5.47%. Utilities are up about 0.77%. Equipment's actually down 1%, and dues are up 1.63%. So you can see how we are in the people business, and the people numbers in here really drive our budget forward. So what are we doing in this budget in terms of staffing changes? We have a world language teacher at the middle school that we do not plan to fill. It's currently vacant now. So we'd like to recycle that position and address our multilingual learner need we have up at the high school. We are struggling with some of our math scores, and we really don't have a terrific amount of support in math area. And so the 2 additional math instructional resource teachers. And the other piece is 3 security guards, which would allow us to have consistent security supports. So to just kind of go through each one of those just a little bit, reinforcing our math with instructional resource teachers would allow us to really support schools individually. Currently, it's really one person supporting 3 schools and about 1,000 students. This would allow 1 per elementary school. It would allow us to support students who are struggling in the Tier 1. What everybody gets for education is Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. It would allow us to have them engaged with those students on a regular basis. And it would also allow us to support teachers in the classroom to have more professional development embedded opportunities to work with these math instruction experts. So the Multilingual Learner Program is a program that we have throughout the district. And one of the issues with multilingual learner programs is that when a school hits a certain level, 20 students, and they stay at 20 students for more than a year, the expectation's been made from the state that you have to have a program, which means you have to have somebody with the right certification. So we're currently right at that cusp where our numbers support us to consider at the high school of needing a multilingual teacher. And these teachers support our students who come in and need support to get through our curriculum and to make progress in English and be able to engage in our curriculum. So security coverage. We currently have some security officers who float from school to school. And when we talked about, we'd love the opportunity to be able to say, nope, it's not about floating from school to school, that there's a consistent amount of coverage throughout the district. So that's how we ended up with 3 additional security guards. It's a program that I think we do get a lot of positive interaction from the community. We've actually chosen some really impressive security guards who do the relationship piece and provide the security. So I think we've done a nice job with that and would love to expand it. So if you look at our percentages, and again, I'm trying to give you context to the world we live in, that's our percentage increase. And it's right in the middle, just to the bottom right quadrant. And everything to the left are districts, many of which are very close by, who are putting in increases much higher than we are. And again, it's context. It's being the COVID grants having run out, the costs of everything have increased lately, and it is not easy to retain, or at least to recruit, without ending up spending more money. So just to give you kind of the what's going on in the world approach. So the numbers, for those who like just the straight numbers, please. Essentially, the top number is our budget that we're currently working under. And with everything that's been changed, the bottom number, 47,779,177, is the end result budget request. And you see how we get there and kind of what it's made of in terms of insurance. So something else, just in case the council or anybody else for that matter, every time we get a question about the budget, we post it on our website. And here is the website. And it allows us to kind of keep an ongoing dialogue about what's in the budget, what we're asking, what we're looking for, why, anytime people have questions. Because a lot of times if you have the question, somebody else also has the question. So based on that premise, we put it right out there and have you, anybody's able to access it at any point. So I usually want to say any questions, but I think I'm supposed to turn the mic over to Mr. Paulus. Hopefully I didn't move any of his stuff.
Okay, we're back. Back to the breakdown, as I mentioned, this is slide 11. This is the grand list comparison. On the right column, you see that our increase is $218,223. In the past 2 years, we've had $1 million, just over $1 million. So, it's a driver, and obviously, revenue, all additional total revenues help. So it was less than expected, and that's the impact. The grand list comparison, breaking it down, the real estate was down $58,500. Motor vehicle hit that I mentioned was $621,000, and personal property was up, which was very positive, $901,786. So very helpful. But our total is $218 there. So that's the breakdown on the grand list. The footnote there is just something we're monitoring at the state level. Should they, it's Connecticut Bill 7026, if finalized, would make a major swing for us. So it's something we're monitoring very closely. Obviously, that's a big swings to the point where, it would, have almost a $686,000 difference. So we will, as this process unfolds, hopefully be able to comment on the status of that bill, hopefully in a positive way. Our direct revenue changes, the grand list, as I mentioned, 218. License and permits, 75,000. Other taxes down 8,000. Just trying to get to my notes. That's the drop in prior motor vehicle taxes, so that's why that's down. Fines and fees, 17,000. Use of money is essentially our interest income, and the intergovernmental transfer, intergovernmental fund revenue from the state. The bright spot there, as I mentioned last night, was about $400,000 in the MRSA, the Municipal Revenue Sharing Account, and ECS. So that's where those funds come from the state, and other revenues. Down 75,000, and the transfers in from sewer, 11,000. So that completes the direct revenue number of $1,292,149. And a comment on the use of our fund balance. It's been the same, and I'm recommending the same, unchanged at $1,424,500. There's a lot to be said, I guess, around a healthy fund balance, and we're still, from our rating agencies, still meeting that, or still fit within that range. That's a positive comment on our bond rating. So, again, it's open for discussion. I'm sure the council will want to discuss it, but at this point, I'm recommending the same level at this point. And so, budget summary, proposed additional expenditures, $4,187,848. Direct revenue of $1,292,149. Difference of $2,895,699. Debt service. Principal of $19,305,000. It breaks down that the town government is $9,400,000. Board of Education $9,905,000. Debt payments, total debt service, principal and interest, $4,280,350. Town government, $921,563. Board of Education, $1,704,375. Available, $1,654,412. So the estimated $9 million interest-only payment is on the bond issuance that I referenced last night and going to the market in June. So all that plays out. The availability of $1.3 million to transfer into the debt management fund. Capital improvement plan. Town side, $957,600. Board of Education, $388,400, for a total expenditure of $1,346,000. Recommended revenues: general fund $750,000, unassigned fund balance of $596,000. That gets us to the $1.3 million in terms of expenditures. That's the breakdown. CIP Town and Board of Education, additional detail. Chromebooks, $208,000. The Roadways Department 6-wheel dump and plow. That's the final payment of the two payment, $150,000. Police vehicles 2 at $125,000. Board of Education tech staff laptops, $122,000. Building and Grounds 4-wheel drive Ford F-250 at $67,000. Finance assessor reval at $60,000. Tech services sidewalk repair replacement $50,000. And remaining 29 projects totaling $562,200 for the total of $1,346,000. In total, 36, 32 from the town, 4 from the Board of Ed. That's the breakdown, and that's it. That's where we end. Mr. Chairman,
All right,
I'll open
thank
it
you.
to questions, or let you open it to the public.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any quick questions. I mean, we have a number of work sessions coming up. The council will be meeting on next week, Monday through Thursday, the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. We'll also meet the following week, Tuesday and Wednesday, the 18th and 19th in work sessions. We do have a regular meeting on the 17th, Monday the 17th. So I think the council will have enough opportunity to ask questions. Is there anything real quick anyone wants to ask before I open it up for public comment? All right. Well, then what we'll do, thank you very much, Superintendent. Thank you. What we'll do now is open it up for public comment. If anyone wishes to address the public hearing, please step forward to the podium, give your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comments. You'll hear a ring. That means you have about 30 seconds left. The second ring means time has run out. Is there anyone that wishes to address the council on the proposed budget? All right, seeing no one. What I am going to do, we did get an email submission for someone who wasn't going to be able to be here tonight. This is Rachel Buchanan, 134 Broad Street, Apartment 1. She did ask that we read this because she wasn't able to be here tonight. I voted no on the Board of Ed budget. It was proposed at a 4.75% increase by the superintendent of Plainville Community Schools and then increased to 5.53%. During my tenure on the board over the last 3.5 years, this percent has nearly doubled. Our budget on the Board of Education accounts for nearly 70% of Plainville's budget. It is not easy to say no. I always want to say yes, especially to providing security officers in all of our schools. As a single line item, I would have emphatically said yes to that request. However, our job is to look at the entire body of work. Now, for clarity, when the Board of Ed gets handed a budget, appropriately 67% of that is made up of teachers' contracted salaries and health insurance costs. Health insurance costs have skyrocketed. So now we have a forced uncontrollable, if you will, along with the pre-negotiated salaries that are not on the table for discussion at the time we are approving our annual budget. So of our total budget, we, the board, are moving around 33% of what's left. I was pleased with the superintendent and his team's presentation of the budget, their effort to bring us as lean as a budget as they said they could. I understand the complexity of theirs and our assignment. It was not an easy decision to say no. This is my hometown, my alma mater. I want the very best for it. It's because of this that I needed to put my foot down and say enough is enough. Our academic scores and results do not reflect excellence, not even close, mediocre at best, and in many areas not meeting expectations. It's time to drill down and figure out why we are spending more to get less. So that was submitted for the public hearing. I'll go ahead and ask one more time. Anyone wish to address the council regarding the public hearing? And seeing no one, thank you everyone for being here and look forward to speaking with the board. I think on the 13th is our work session night. Again, I would just remind if people do have questions, forwarding them to the superintendent ahead of time isn't a bad thing to do. It's always good to get more information out there than less. So if we do have questions, feel free to forward those on. The same with the town manager. If there's anything in the budget as you look through it this weekend, feel free to forward any questions to them. So thank you very much, everyone. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. See everybody on Monday.